So if you're thinking about what robots etc. can do, yes, sure, they can increase the productivity, the output, but it will also put a downward pressure on the prices. So that these kinds of innovations will not dramatically increase our GDP. Because actually people will not all of a sudden have more money to buy these services, or will pay a lower price per unit that this robot or whatever new invention will bring. Okay, shall we continue?
Yeah.
Okay, so why is productivity growth so low? We were talking about Amazon overlap. Yeah.
I forget what was the cost overlap. I forget this.
Okay. So basically, we were explaining how come that while we see these innovations, we do not see a dramatic increase in productivity. Why is that? And we were actually discussing the transition period from one economic model to the other. So we see that basically Amazon comes with a new business concept, an innovation in business, which is basically e-commerce. So they don't have to go through the whole supply chain. They can bring goods directly to customers. And then you would say, okay, then other companies start to adopt that, and that will have a big impact on the economy as a whole. If Walmart starts to implement e-commerce, then also that should add to our economic growth. But what we see is that companies like Walmart, even though they implement e-commerce, at the same time they cannot afford to just abandon their existing retail network. So what you see is that Walmart and other big retailers, they do adopt e-commerce, but at the same time they have to maintain their traditional outlet network, and that basically means not that they are making more money implementing e-commerce. For them, e-commerce is strategic investment, a defensive strategic investment for the future. As a whole, Walmart has not been making more sales than they made before, but they basically just had to catch up with e-commerce. So this is a cost duplication. This is also known. I only know the Dutch term for this, but the wet van de remmende voorsprong, which is the law of the okay, I can only explain it in English. So if you're ahead of the game, if you have an infrastructure, for example, a communication infrastructure, if you had put like for example in the Netherlands we had a very good television network, coax infrastructure, and coax infrastructure was very convenient because it would actually allow you to bring internet to the houses much faster than at the time than our ISDN network was capable of, because ISDN was using copper, and television network, coax network that and everybody in the Netherlands had it, enabled you to bring internet speeds to the house much faster, which is good. So we invested a lot of money in this network, but then the optical fiber network came into place, and we were not able to adopt that immediately because we already were sitting on a coax infrastructure. So people didn't really were not really capable or willing to write off their coax.net infrastructure immediately. Other countries that didn't have a coax infrastructure, like for example, Estonia is a famous example, where they didn't have any infrastructure, so they could immediately implement state-of-the-art technology and put in a blazingly fast optical fiber network from the start. So they have the fastest internet in Europe at the moment, in Estonia, simply because they didn't have any overlap in their current infrastructure. They just implemented the newest technology. So that's an opportunity for people who come new. That's an opportunity for the new players in the field. But of course, if there will be a new infrastructure will be coming up that will make our internet even faster, then Estonia has an existing infrastructure, just like we have. So it's not sustainable, but at least we need to realize that actually competitive advantage exists for people who do not have anything yet. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're looking at the future. Africa doesn't have any infrastructure yet. So whatever we come up with next, they can implement whatever. So they will only implement the latest technology. So that's the cost of overlap.
So I don't understand well. So say.
Okay.
Explain
so
again.
basically, the cost of overlap is the cost that you need to make in the transition period. So Walmart realizes that the future of retailing might be largely in e-commerce, right? It's very expensive to maintain all these shops and with all the staff on the ground. It's much cheaper to have a warehouse and to bring to people directly. But Walmart, because they already have an existing network, they have an existing infrastructure, they have people working in these shops, they cannot just say, okay, we're going to close everything and we're going to do e-commerce, just like Amazon does. That's just not viable for them to do. They will not be able to survive because their revenue will go from $1 gazillion to $0, and they need to build up their presence in e-commerce. So what they will do, logically, is they will build up their e-commerce platform parallel to maintaining their physical network. So all the shops that they are managing, all the people that are working there. So basically for them, in the transition period, it doesn't mean that e-commerce will basically bring more revenue to Walmart. Actually, most of the revenue from Walmart online will be people going away from the shops online. So basically it's just moving revenue from one channel to the other. But they're having to maintain both their online presence and their offline presence. They're basically duplicating costs. So the overall profitability of a company like Walmart is actually going down in a period of transition. But the cost of overlap is the period that we are going from one model to the other model.
Okay, just Amazon is currently for example, a good example is Japanese Yodobashi camera. They have shops, but recently they very much big investment for e-commerce, and they try to invest a lot. So this kind of investment cost is overlapping, comparing with former business style. This is what you want to say, right?
Exactly. So in this transition period, Yodobashi Camera will have their shops. They will have people coming in there. They can't just stop doing that, because if they stop doing that, they will have zero revenue. The revenue online will not be enough to say, okay, well, we can stop our business.
But this kind of investment is usual for any kind of improvement for reform or for company or society.
Exactly.
But at this case is countrywide or global-wide investment will going to be occurring. That's the reason why we need to watch for this investment. It's so huge for impact for society. So that's the reason you put it on this slide, right?
Exactly. So why? How come we don't see so much uptake when we're actually seeing so much adoption of e-commerce? Because actually most of the e-commerce is done by the traditional players, and they are mainly switching from one outlet to the other. So they need to maintain two outlets instead of one. The physical stores and their online stores, and that means that even though it has a potential to actually contribute a lot to the GDP and the growth, it actually doesn't. So it's basically a cost duplication, and so that puts a big brake on the potential of these kinds of innovations. Now. Going back to what we discussed before, basically it is to be expected that ultimately, also in when it comes to e-commerce, that the margins will be very thin.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Doesn't really matter if you go from A to B. So the total impact of e-commerce on productivity in terms of GDP will not be so big.
Mm-hmm. So it means next. はい、皆さんこんにちは、雲野です。今日はですね、雲野塾の研修のプログラムをご紹介したいと思います。で、こういうふうなホームページありますけれども、ぜひですね、一度中身をご覧になっていただきたいと思います。今日はブーキューブさんのスタジオに来て、この収録をしておりますので、中身はこういうふうになってて、今最近ホットなね、グローバルリーダーの定義など書いてあります。で、特に経団連が作成しました留学すれば英語ができて専門性を持つというだけではですね、グローバルリーダーになれないとここに書いてありますようにですね、仕事ができる、専門性を持つ、英語ができるだけじゃなくてですね、私どもの塾ではリベラルアースということと、それからもう一つは孫子の兵を、さらにはですね、日本の歴史というものを合わせて教えることによって皆さんが海外の欧米の方々と、もしくは華僑圏の方々と正々堂々と渡り合えるような人物を育成しようというふうなことを考えています。ここに次のスライドが出ておりますけれども、ここに書いてありますのはですね、さらに、私どもの雲野塾の中身につきましてはですね、欧米の資料しか使っておりません。また実際に雲野塾は英語でやっておりますので、英語の講師がこう話しておりますけど、学習はですね、日本の歴史をまだ教えて